Hello, welcome to the Spirit of Apollo. I'm your host, Mark Lesmeister. Today, we're going to build the Command and Service module from Bag 12, and then I will talk a little bit about the cultural legacy of the second human mission to use the Command and Service module, Apollo 8. So here we see the completed Command and Service module. I'm actually using the Command module from another part of the model that intended for splashdown, because the one that goes on the rocket itself is covered with the protective covering for the launch escape system. These pieces here are meant to represent, I think, the reaction control rockets that I mentioned in a previous episode. Here we see the Command and Service module in front of the other three stages of the Saturn V rocket for scale. The first mission to use the Saturn V and the Command and Service module together was Apollo 8. In order to understand the cultural legacy of this important mission, we need to consider a little bit about the times in which it happened. Some people long for a simpler time when America was more unified than it seems to be today. But turbulent times are not unique to the present age. 50 years ago, in 1968, there were athletes protesting racial discrimination by their posture during the national anthem. There was a contentious presidential election. There were street protests of U.S. policies. There were calls to reform our nation's gun laws after gun violence had taken the lives of Bobby Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King. As for the space program, polls showed that the majority of Americans did not believe Project Apollo was worth the cost. In 1968, NASA was still recovering from the Apollo 1 fire. That tragedy forced NASA to take a step back and look at what they were doing. The mission was ultimately stronger for it. Apollo 7 was the first test of the redesigned command module. Apollo 8 was supposed to test the Apollo Saturn V combination in Earth orbit. But the Soviet Union was building a rocket called the N-1 that would, if not equal the Saturn V, at least be in the same class. The CIA thought the Soviets may be capable of a human circumlunar mission by the end of 1968. Indeed, in September, the Soviet Zond 5 carried live animals around the moon. Not wanting to lose another first to the Soviets, NASA gave the Apollo 8 crew a new mission. They would be the first crew to be launched by the powerful Saturn V rocket, and they would travel around the moon. The Saturn V had only had 2 launches. One was a success, but the second was fraught with problems. This decision to send Apollo 8 around the moon has been called the most daring decision NASA ever made. So now, in an homage to another groundbreaking cultural event of 1968, the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, I present the Apollo 8 mission profile. Now, the Apollo 8 mission was not without controversy. The atheist activist Madalyn Murray O'Hair objected to the astronauts reading from Genesis on the mission. But ultimately, Apollo 8 was not so much about what divides us as what unites us. Apollo 8 showed us that regardless of our politics or the color of our skin, regardless of whether we believe in one God, many gods, or no gods at all, we all share one planet. So until next time, Godspeed.